Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, once again, thank you very much for joining Industrial Talk, and thank you for your continued support of a platform that celebrates industry professionals all around the world, because you're bold, you're brave, you dare greatly, you are changing lives, and you are changing the world. And as you can tell by the buzz in the background, we are on site. Accruent Insights, it's a conference yet for the user community, and we are in Nashville at the Gaylord. And if you haven't been to the Gaylord, just recognize when you do come to the Gaylord, you will be lost. It is just a fact of the Gaylord. We have two gents in the seat. TC, I know what the C stands for, but I'm not going to tell you. And Tom, they're both with Accruent. Let's get cracking. There you go. I didn't like the original, but you guys are so flexible.
Agile.
Let me write that down on my notes. Agile. It's a great word. I don't think anybody's ever used it.
I've never heard it the first time.
It is. How do you spell it? Oh my gosh, man. All right. You guys having a good conference?
It's been great.
4 years. 4 years. This is the first time in 4 years.
Right, that's correct.
That blew me away.
Yeah.
Must be great to see the faces.
Finally.
The people.
Absolutely.
Poke at them. Yeah, you're real. You're not a Zoom call.
Yeah.
You're not just this little, postage stamp face.
Yeah, I was saying, Scott, we should kind of walk around with boxes just so we know who we can identify you. Right?
It's like, oh, yeah. Tom!
Yeah.
Holy cow, you're taller. You're shorter.
Yeah. You're much better looking. Oh, my gosh. Check it out. No, it's always great. And it seems like a lot of people are really enjoying the opportunity to collaborate.
Yeah.
And to be able to talk about sort of a session to talk about problems. Oh, I got this problem. But at least you have solutions.
Absolutely.
All right. TC, give us a little background on who you are.
Yeah, so I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Solution Consulting at Accruent.
I can't fit that on.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
So the graphic's going to be really difficult to keep that whole thing in there. Go ahead.
I lead the solution consulting team. We work with our sales colleagues to demonstrate and do we call technical validation during the sales process. So we can basically get to show the customers all the cool products that Accruent has and how they can fit in the companies that are looking at those products.
I hate to follow TC, but Tom, you have to follow TC. I don't have to worry. I'm just a guy.
Yeah, how do you follow that, Scott?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm starting to lean in already with this conversation.
you warned that was going to happen. Now I'm leaning. Now I'm leaning, and you're leaning.
It's the TC. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Seriously, I'm just honored to be here next to TC.
And so you should. You're looking good in your jacket.
Yeah.
It is. It's a good guy.
Yeah.
All right. Background.
Pocket Square. Yeah.
Pocket Square,
yeah. Right. There we go. So enterprise seller. Been with in sales. We don't need to count how many years. A lot of years. I had hair when I started. I knew where you were going.
Hair joke.
I had hair when I started.
Like, oh,
yeah. Been there. Yeah. And I've been with Accruent. It'll be 8 years in October, and it's been a fantastic ride.
I really, after all the conversations that I've had so far, what's been really interesting is the positioning of Accruent for all of the other companies and how it all works together. There's from my perspective, a clear strategic focus that there's nothing that's sort of like, oh, why are you guys doing that? You know, I didn't know tire changing was a part of Accruent and all that, but no, everything seems to be very coalescent on a very important asset management type of a solution. Now, TC, we talked briefly about what we want to talk about. Give the listeners a little bit about what we're talking specifically here at Accruent. So.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the industry and the life cycle of real estate, managing assets, managing rooms, managing cost, so much has happened since the pandemic, right? Everybody cleared out. We got all this real estate space. What do we do with it all? How do we, do we have enough? How do we change what use we have, the different real estate assets we have? And helping clients figure that out and maintain that is a really, it's a difficult problem to solve. And Accruent is really well positioned with all of our different solutions to be able to offer clients a comprehensive solution across many different areas of the life cycle.
Tom, the reality is that, to TC's point, there are just assets that are out there. There's these properties that just, because of the pandemic, people are changed their work behavior. Do I really need a property like that? But how do we help these owners through that? I don't have an answer.
I don't think you're going to find an answer, to be honest with you. There's 94 million square feet of vacant space right now in Manhattan, and that's only one market. And you can look at what is going on in the commercial real estate, and it is a scary time as you look at what is the vacancy rate. And everyone is looking at, what do we do with this space? What do we do with these buildings? And it's not just the owners, it's the operators, it's the folks that work inside it. So there's a lot going on in the built environment.
So how do I approach it? All right, let's say I'm an owner in Manhattan, and I've got these properties. What are some of the possible? How you talk to me outside of the fact that I'm probably crying?
Well, I think we talk about it from a solutioning perspective and understanding what the challenges are that are in the market right now. And there's no shortage of challenges in the market. And I think what we need to get to is, how are you acquiring or disposing of property? So TC said it great. We run that entire real estate life cycle, soup to nuts, from acquisition to growth or disposition. And we touch every facet inside that real estate life cycle. So we start there. We start looking at, not just what's keeping you up at night. We're going to come there and have conversations about what you should be concerned about. And, how are you managing that portfolio of buildings, of space? How are you delivering a product that's better for the clients that you serve?
Yeah. TC, when you start talking about the real estate life cycle, you're looking at this asset, you're looking at this building, you're looking, I don't know how they manage this place. Quite frankly, I don't, but they do. The lights stay on. There's no. I'm actually looking at the lights here at the Gaylord, trying to find one that's out, and they're all at work. That just blows me away. Do you have difficult conversations with clients, saying, "Hey, we recommend something here," or are you in a position where you're saying, "Hey, I know you want to retain this asset. Let's talk about how to retain it," or
I think, Scotty, even goes broader than that, which is, have you really thought through how your usage should change, right? Because people aren't using those assets the same way they did in 2018, 2019. So a lot of companies are stepping back, right, and saying, hey, should this be offices? Should it be cubes? Should it be just a bunch of conference rooms that we come in a day a week or 2 days a week? I mean, our office in Austin, Texas, we use it mainly to get teams together, right? We come in for a week, 3 or 4 days, and we work out of our homes. And a lot of companies are really redefining how they're using those assets. And once they redefine that, then they say, okay, does this fit? How do we need to change, reconfigure what I've got to make it work for me as a company as we move forward? So a lot of times we push the thinking a little bit to say, because that's what I think Tom's answer was really good when he talked about there's no right answer, because it depends on the company, it depends on how they want to operate. Some companies lean towards, I want to have everybody here 2, 3, 4 days a week because that collaboration just can't be missed. Others say, you know what, come in whenever you want to, or every once in a while, and that works for them. So scaling down, trying to figure out reconfiguring, changing, and updating those assets are really what companies are struggling with now. And we help them make those decisions and implement and maintain them.
When you say reconfigure, are you just saying, hey, I've got this square footage, I can optimize what that looks like? And when you start talking about real estate lifecycle, are you also diving into the assets too? Meaning like hey, here's an HVAC, here's this, here's a motor, whatever. Do you dive in, and then do you present like here it is?
Yeah,
sort of.
So I think it's more around how are you going to use those assets, right? Or when I say reconfigure, do we need a bunch of offices, or should we just change the offices out to a bunch of conference rooms? How many do you need? How big should they be based on your usage? How do you know? How do you schedule those conference rooms? We have solutions for that as well. In fact, we actually have, can hook up occupancy sensors, because a lot of people don't know. Well, why don't you go find out who's using them and using IoT to do that, to figure out how many people are using this conference room, when are they using it, are they scheduling it? And then providing, I think, some solutions and recommendations on optimizing, I think you used was a good word, Scott, optimizing those spaces and investments, and then figuring out, okay, how much of this portfolio do I need? Should I buy it should I get rid of this one and buy it in a different part of the country? All those different questions and issues we help customers deal with.
Yeah, it just seems like, especially more than ever, I mean, it's changed so dramatically. I need a roadmap. I need some sort of way of being able to hang my hat and knowing that I've got a viable strategy of how to manage this asset, and I can make the decision on whether to say, okay, it's probably not from my company's perspective. Do we need to have this, or can we just sort of pull everybody over here? But those are the conversations that you've got to have.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
So.
Do I break it up and sublease?
Yeah.
Right? Because my lease expires in 5 years. Do I sublease? Then how much space do I need? What am I going to use it for, et cetera? Those are the questions that people struggle with. And ultimately, it's literally getting people together with spreadsheets and trying to make a decision that sometimes takes weeks or months. And we've heard customers talk about us that I can't do that in one application. I've got to look in all kinds of different places to pull together to make a decision. That's what they struggle with.
Yeah, but if I'm a leasee, right, and I have leases all over the country, there's multiple complex conversations around each one of those. So maybe some areas like, it's a no-brainer, we just keep it, whatever. But I tend to think that it's far more complex, and be able to sort of approach or talk to a professional like you, Tom, would probably go a long way in knowing what to do if I have multi-properties. Does that make sense?
No, we service all industries, Scott, from a Accruent perspective. So we're in higher ed, industrial, retail, corporate. And like I said, I think, and I would just pick up what TC said, there's $11 trillion of assets that are still managed on spreadsheets.
What?
Globally. Isn't it? I mean,
what?
Yeah. It's a huge number, and the market.
Can you imagine? I would hate to go to work knowing that I'd have a spreadsheet that I've got to sort of manage and lumber around in.
So we look at how do we optimize. I mean, you and TC both said that, right? Looking at getting out of email, out of spreadsheets, out of instant messages. There's no process in place to manage these assets, and what it does is creates an opportunity for fault. You could lose if you're managing a portfolio of thousands of buildings, you could lose an option on a right of first refusal on a marquee property, and you don't want to do that.
How do you? It's just like that's challenging stuff. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Let's say to your point about 1,000, right? Okay, does property A more important than property B? Can I incrementally sort of do this analysis? Right.
Well, you can. Right. Yeah. So you're looking at sales, right? In those from a retail perspective. Now I'm going to hone in on retail because we're talking thousands and tens of thousands of locations in some of these large retailers, and they absolutely have to know all of the covenances that are associated with each individual lease, and they have to be able to record the sales that are taking place in those buildings in order to know, hey, this is something we're going to look to renew.
Note to self, if I get in retail, I'm calling Accruent.
Exactly.
Yesterday.
And listen, there's no different in corporate. Corporate is, I was at I think it was one of the big consultancies, and the head of real estate there said, I'm not signing any more leases that are longer than 5 years. Unheard of. Probably up to a year or two ago. That would 10, 20,
Yeah, yes.
And now we're looking at very large organizations. We're talking about people that have 250,000 employees are looking at, we're not signing leases greater than 5 years. And I think what people are looking for is flexibility.
Yes.
In how they manage their assets.
I'm on a month. It's like, yeah, I'll pay you. No, I'm on a month. I mean, if I need which I don't need an office, but I would be on a month. Speaking of flexibility, I'll give you a month.
Right.
But you see that type of change or those trends? Where do you see some of the trends happening here, TC?
Yeah, I think flexibility is the key. There's a couple things. There's optimizing what you've got from a corporate standpoint.
Yeah.
Being able to fit to your company and the culture and where you're going, depending on your business, right? I mean, think about consulting. We've got a lot of customers that are big, large consulting firm that have consultants traveling all over the place. They're getting back out and being on site much more, but how much do we need for them? But, when you start to look in the retail side, let's say you're a retailer and you want to grow 200 stores the next year. Like, how do you do that? And how do you find those locations and taking advantage of, certain properties in certain parts of the country and manage all those leases and all the regulations and reporting? It's just difficult to do. And then you think about once you've got the property, you've got it up and open and going. You're like, how do you make sure that you're servicing it, right? You're taking care of all the maintenance needs and all that kind of stuff that goes into it as well, and you're doing it the best you can. So that flexibility in being able to optimize how that's working and making sure you're getting your ROI out of those properties is key right now.
Yeah, I again, being in retail, I would be, I don't know. When I buy everything online, let's put it that way, and it comes to my front door, and I'm a good old thumbs up on that,
Yep.
It's a challenging world. How do you see, Tom? Do you see some sort of glimmers of hope? I mean, come on. You got the Gaylord. Everybody's going to come here.
Yeah,
this is like a no-brainer. I got it.
Yeah, Scott, it's not all doom and gloom by any means. What I think there is a focus, and we didn't even get to it, right? Behind your people, your real estate is your second largest cost for most businesses.
Yeah.
And I think what we are seeing is, how do you manage those costs so you're not impacting the people, right? And I think you don't have to look any further than you go on campus, go on any higher ed institution and sit in the student union. You can see what the future of work is going to look like, and I think that's really kind of cool.
It's true.
If you want to see it, and it is. TC touched on collaboration. You want to be in an environment. People are going to come into work to do collaborative work. They're going to do their heads down work wherever that works best for them. We got to maintain these facilities in order to deliver delightful experiences, whether that's on a college campus, whether that's in a retail location, whether that's in a corporate building.
The bottom line, from my perspective, I see that I need to make sure that I connect with people who are current, collaborate with those individuals. I can't be expected if I was all I know is I've got some challenges. I just need to find those individuals or those companies that I can collaborate with to speed up that learning curve and to be able to come up with some solutions that make sense.
And I think this is a perfect opportunity, right? So you talked about getting back, listen, Zoom's great, Teams great, online collaboration's opened a lot of doors, but getting here in an environment like this that we're at the Gaylord and people being able to connect and share stories, share what's working, what's not working. It's fantastic.
That's exciting.
It is, and I think you talk about innovation, where things are going. Working with some of the facility maintenance providers that we work with. Yeah. Think about when you're coming to a place like this. It's awesome. How do I know where my room is, and some of the wayfinding technologies to point me? I mean, how many times did you put your map out of your back pocket to get here from my room? Because this place is massive.
I'm an idiot. I just said, hey, let's just go.
Yeah.
Let's just try to find it. Let's go on a journey.
Yeah, exactly.
There are tools that to be able to, which is true.
Yeah. So how do you make that a much more industry focused or collaborative experience, like people are used to, right? So hey, I've got my meeting room that I've scheduled, and who's going to be there? How do I get there? What's the kiosk going to point me in the right direction? And by the way, how am I going to get it catered? And making sure there's a screen to project on and all that kind of good stuff, and making an experience that's really interesting. And some of our partners, like I talked about, have some really interesting integrations. We start thinking, hey, when I walk in, how does it know it's me? It issued my badge. It knows I'm there, right? I can order on the way in and order a coffee. I can pick up the cafe. So those real estate experiences are starting to kind of form. That'd be really
that's
pretty
great,
cool,
yeah.
Right? So I show up. It's a smart building, right? It's smart
building.
for me.
Yes,
it's personalized for me, right? So those are the experiences I think you'll see in the future.
Yeah.
It'll be really great. The operators who do this really well leverage technology that exists today, but it's that integration and making it a personalized experience for you. Instead of, you remember the days you walk into a building and you're looking at the directory to figure out where you're going to be. This is walking in. They know that TC's in the lobby. They know it knows where I'm going. I can do the things that I want to do ahead of time, right? That's where we're going. It makes it like an Amazon experience or a Lyft or an Uber experience.
Yes.
That's what's coming to some of the real estate experiences we're seeing, which just makes it exciting.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. Well, it becomes, companies that have that culture, right? That's what people want to go work. It becomes an attractive recruiting tool.
There it is. Right? You're absolutely, and that's a whole other topic, finding people.
Exactly. Right.
TC, how do people find you? How do they get a hold of you? They're saying, I want to know.
tc.kaiser, Kaiser, at accruent.com.
Tom.
Very easy. Tom.ash at accruent.com.
You guys out on LinkedIn?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not going to. So when I say, hey, I'm going to be buddies with these guys, you're not going to ghost me, are you?
No, absolutely. Sign up.
Not yet.
Not yet. It depends. It all depends. Well, you guys were absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thanks you so much. Very much. Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing. Challenging times. Listeners, you need Sherpas like these two gents. Big time, big time. All right, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. We're going to be right back, so stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
An absolute barn burner of a conversation with TC and Tom, the dynamic duo. They're at Accruent Live. You know the rest of the story. Go out to industrialtalk.com. Find out more. Reach out to these two gents. Get connected, because it's all about educating, which you need to. If you're in the building management world and you need to manage those assets, you need to connect with TC and you need to connect with Tom. You need to find out more. So it's all out there. LinkedIn, they're willing to connect. All right, put the Accruent Live on your calendar for next year. It was great. It didn't disappoint. It was a lot of fun, a lot of energy, a lot of collaboration, which is important. So go out to Industrial Talk. We're going to have the information on that for next year. All right, be bold, be brave. Dare greatly. Hang out with TC and Tom, and you will be changing the world. We're going to have another great conversation coming from that event shortly. So stay tuned.